家好，我是小新。大家下午好，我是小童。
是的，那么呢，即将为各位带来的就是首先前面3个 BO3都会为大家带来的是 LPL 下一个赛季的晋级赛事。那么今天我们要把 A 组的赛事全部都给完成，然后同时呢也会诞生 A 组晋级的2支队伍。
对，今天是晋级2支队伍，然后明天是晋级2支队伍。然后今天即将进行的是 A 组的第一场。
Hi, Demacia, and welcome back to the LPL EN. I'm actually going to be hosting tonight. It's Frostgren. Joined on the cast with me is going to be Skill Factory, and we're continuing the LPL Expansion tournament with Day 2. Now, Skill Factory, any words of wisdom you want to part before we get into a breakdown of what happened yesterday?
I don't know if I have too many words of wisdom. I am probably about as green as it gets for the, I guess, the qualifying scene here. Maybe not even green. Maybe just like a little seedling that has been planted, and I have a lot of growing to do tonight. We'll put that much.
It's okay, because I'm going to cover exactly what this tournament's about. So this is the LPL expansion, and a quick recap of kind of how the tournament is structured. There's 8 teams in this tournament, so it's going to be Young Glory, Vici Gaming, Energy Pacemaker Carries, World Elite Academy, DK, GAMT, and Wings of Aurora. Out of those 8 teams, 4 can qualify for the LPL, because like every other expansion, the LPL is growing from 8 teams to 12. So a lot of room to grow right there. And so far from Day 2, we've had Vici Gaming upset Young Glory, took them down. Energy Pacemaker beat out Energy Pacemaker Carries. And then in the second half, World Elite Academy and GAMT both 2-0'd DK and Wings of Aurora. Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, it's pretty exciting. You know, going from 8 teams to 12 teams is a lot of slots to fill. I mean, even more than, you know, the NA scene, you know, picking up 2 extra teams. So there's a lot more room in this tournament, but it hasn't exactly panned out the way everybody was expecting. Especially this game here, you were telling me that, you know, Young Glory wasn't even supposed to kind of foreseen to even be in the losers bracket, let alone kind of fighting for their life right now against Energy Pacemaker Carries. So pretty excited to see if they can, you know, put up the wins when it really, really counts.
Yeah, and it's actually fairly relevant, because obviously we have Young Glory kind of flashing up on the screen. That is their 80k Jinlong, the dragon from Dragon Ball Z. So if I call him the dragon, you'll know why. But big reason why Young Glory, it's kind of surprising to see them here, is their mid laner right now on the screen, Jian Gun. This guy, I believe on China Talk, we've referenced him as the Faker of China, although not nearly as consistent a Faker, but in the same idea that he has a massive champion pool, and he's a very talented, very flashy 1v1 mid lane talent. And when Young Glory do find their victories, which over the course of the LPL, because they are attempting to re-qualify for the LPL here, they actually upset quite a few major teams, EDG, OMG. I think they've taken games off of a lot of really high talent.
So being such a player with such a high champion pool, do you expect the Young Glory to give him a last pick opportunity to counterpick his mid lane and kind of fit whatever champion he decides to pull out that's going to work with his team and against that lane to give him that advantage?
I don't know if they're going to look for a counterpick necessarily. They have given it to him in the past, but Young Glory has looked really shaky, especially since they brought on a new top laner. We do have him on the screen right now, Kim. I believe in game he'll be called Start, possibly. Sometimes their in-game names don't match the names that they're introduced with right here. I believe he is Korean, but I'd have to double check. Previously, they had a top laner #1, and of course, we kind of glossed over Yanser. But Jian Gun, the problem is he's kind of hit or miss. Again, it's that consistency issue, the fact that Young Glory is the sister team of Invictus Gaming, and if you know anything about Invictus Gaming, it's that they'll always go 1-1. They'll never 2-0, they'll always split. And it's about just consistently getting him to show up. But we are on to the team that they'll be facing. Again, this is the losers bracket match first, so whoever loses here is out of the tournament. We're already into the bottom side of it, and this is Energy Pacemaker Carries, who lost to their sister team, Energy Pacemaker. Now, the important storyline to follow here is that you may have heard of big names like Kakao and Rookie. Kakao and Rookie are on this team, but the brackets were locked for this expansion tournament, so they're not able to play. So Kakao and Rookie's performance for the LPL depends on this team qualifying. If they do not, Kakao and Rookie will play in LSPL.
Now, from a team standpoint, that's not a big deal. I mean, as a team, you want your team to be in there. Great, but from a individual player standpoint, knowing that even if you show up here and play well, that you have 2 people that are 100% going to replace teammates. I mean, even if they're not you yourself, knowing that the guy next to you isn't going to be the person you're playing with in the LPL definitely weighs on your performance tonight. And it's at least going to be somewhere in the back of your mind on, so great, we do awesome here, we show our stuff, we absolutely roll them, and then the roster changes and we have to learn a new team.
That's pretty much it. Will they find the motivation to actually really try here? A lot of people didn't expect them to go far. It was kind of assumed from a lot of the analysts, at least as far as the Western world is concerned for China, that Kakao and Rookie would stay in LSPL. So to kind of give an idea of the projections for this match, that said, Young Glory was not supposed to fall into the losers bracket so early. They are technically on the, I'm going to use air quotations, but you can't see them, the harder side of the bracket, if you will, more advanced teams on their side. But we've already seen a lot of upsets.
Yeah, and they're always tough to predict, especially when you get into a qualifier situation where there's not, a lot of roster changes happen in between the seasons, the end of last season, beginning of this season. People are constantly moving around on how, short the contracts are in League of Legends. Nobody has 3-4 year contracts, so at the end of every year, everything's reevaluated, and players reevaluate themselves in their position on teams, and then teams evaluate where they're going to go and where they want to be next. Nobody sets up for 3 years down the road to foster these great players that are going to be awesome. They want to win now, and they want to get in this tournament and have a place to compete.
And you're exactly right. They do have an advantage in that some of their members, because obviously Young Glory now has a few splits of LPL underneath their belt, but a lot of the members on Energy Pacemaker carries, as well as Energy Pacemakers, are also veterans of the scene, so it's not like they're going in completely blind here.
Right, and Young Glory was, 7th in LPL Summer 2013, I think?
Out of 8 teams, yes.
Right, so it's not like they were, top runners and didn't need some type of changing or helped to kind of be a more premier team. It's always tough kind of going for a qualifier position after you were in the LPL, but oh great, now we've been bumped back and we need to kind of requalify with a new team, and the roster changes might make that work for them, but if you can't find that consistency, it's really hard to find a spot in the league.
And with that, we are into pick and ban. Again, it's going to be Young Glory on the blue side this time around. Energy Pacemaker carries on the red side. It isn't game, set, and match of this best of 3 series yet, but it is game, set, and match for whoever loses this series, because they will be going home. Bans, Zillion and Rumble out of the gate.
Yeah, some very quick bans, and I expect to see a lot of Rumble bans come off, especially early this season, depending on how 4.2 hits everybody. But seeing so we're playing a couple patches previous, Rumble is very strong, and you even see people first picking it blindly because of how strong that champion is. Then the bans, pretty much, they knew what they wanted. Rengar and Janna, the second 2 bans, and Lee Sin and Gnar rounding out all 6.
So the top lane being heavily focused, again, with that Gnar, that Rumble ban right there. And the difference between LPL and the other regions is that there's never a, what's what I'm going to use, a babysit time frame. Like, as soon as a champion is released, you'll have in the LCS that they have a grace period where that champion cannot be played. And LPL, as soon as a champion's done, you're ready to play it. So Gnar, Azir are both live.
Yeah, and that's scary. So if Azir is live in this patch, I'd be shocked not to see him picked up. He was buggy early on, but still a really strong lane. But does have some pretty heavy counters that he has trouble with. And he's kind of a team zone control type focus champion, so he doesn't always fit in most team comps.
Yep, and we've already seen him played. He was played by IG's Invictus Gaming's mid laner Zatai in a third-party tournament a few weeks back. So we'll see if he makes another appearance here, but we do have Maokai and Jace picked up for the side of Energy Pacemaker carries. Jace has found a lot of bans in this tournament, actually, so finally starting to see him get picked up. And traditionally, China, the meta doesn't really favor poke-based compositions, but it's all about the chase and the hard engage, and pairing that up with the Maokai, you get a really nice synergy that as this game goes on later and later and more of these towers fall down, the map starts to open up, and an acceleration gate into a Maokai Twisted Advance is pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, any move speed that you can couple with Maokai, it just makes him a really formidable engage because there's no skill shots, it is point and click, you always get to your target as long as you start the cast, so even if they flash away or place a wall in front of you or try to knock you back, nothing happens. You always make it to your target and you root them, and then they have to react after that, which pretty much gets your team up to that pace as is. And then we're going to see a lock-in on Jarvan and Corki. And so the bottom lane will pretty much be the Thresh Corki combination, which is a really great burst combination. I mean, even if you're landing hooks, they're awesome if you push the enemy bottom lane to tower because of how much damage you can do to them while they're under tower with phosphorus bombs and hooks. So we'll see what they come back with, seeing so we haven't seen any bottom lane picks yet. We might see the Leona lock in.
I'm actually really curious if Supercat's going to look for Leona here. He found a lot of success on it yesterday. The roam meta is very strong, especially for energy pacemaker carries. Abused it to great success, especially around that mid lane. The thing is that Yancer, the support laner for Young Glory, is also a really big Leona and Thresh player. So he really understands that matchup well as a big roamer. Ooh, and I love the lock-in of Zed for Jiangun right there.
Yeah, Zed will be a big lock-in. He already pretty much knows his mid lane matchup after the 2 lock-ins there, so he will be picking the Zed into the Jace, and they might go with, they're hovering on a Twitch here, so a Twitch Leona bot lane, which, you know, Twitch kind of has a rough early game, especially versus a very bursty champion like Corki, who can also find him out of stealth, so it'll be a very dangerous lane for Twitch to be in, especially if he finds himself on the wrong end of a death sentence.
I imagine energy pacemaker carries will look for a lane swap here. Go initially bring Leona to the top lane, try to get Twitch situated well, and then kick Leona out into the roam.
Yeah, and if we do see that lane switch, Maokai has a huge advantage in a 1v2 situation versus Ryze. You have much more wave clear, you have much more sustain, especially pre-level 6. I mean, that's pretty much where Ryze gets a little bit of a sustain, and wave clear with his AoE on his ultimate. But, you know, Maokai having, you know, spamming spells and then getting healed up from the next auto attacks does a much better job under tower and keeping the lane from taking down the tower.
Yeah, and like you said, the other big thing is both of these champions would fare fairly well in a 2v1 lane matchup. Of course, if Ryze gets his tower pushed in, he's just going to freeze the wave, farm it up, build items like a tier, and see a late game. Likewise, Maokai, it's all about that late game team fight and how they utilize the teleport, so wonder who's going to set it up, or if we are going to see a 2v2 in the bot lane. Taking a 2v2 against a Corki is pretty risky because of the power on his early phosphorus bomb. Pretty much total wave control at level 1, as well as he gets a double phosphorus bomb on you at level 1. The trade is essentially over.
Yeah, it's really interesting the way that EPC went about this, because they had 2 top lane bans. They had a very early, you know, one of their first picks was used on the top lane, and then they might be looking to lane swap with the disadvantage that they picked into the bottom lane. So it's really weird how their pick and ban phase went. It was like they went for one direction, hey, let's match up top lane, and then they were like, wait, let's try to get a lane switch and get Twitch, who can actually try to scale towards mid to late game and maybe turn into that mid game assassin. So it seems like their strategy is a little all over the board right here, especially where they tried to, you know, a couple bans target in that top lane to get that favorable matchup. But you know, we'll see how it plays out in this game.
They do have a lot of line damage, I will give them that. You have to think if they find any of Young Glory in a tight corridor, the spray and pray with the shock wave through an acceleration gate is pretty much going to rip through the front line.
Yeah, it's gonna need some clutch lanterns to get people out of there. But they do have really highly mobile champions. I mean, J4, Zed is like a, you know, Vayne says it well, boxing shadows. You know, he can be all over the map, especially if he has ultimate up. You can never really count on getting him down because of how much distance he can get and then pop back to his ultimate. But we're seeing fairly aggressive starts here, but the opposite aggression. So wards coming in on a blues up buffs on both sides, which we've seen so much in the past season. And then the recalls and probably a buff swap unless they look to group up and get back against each other.
And we did talk about this in pick and ban phase. The energy pacemaker carries would look to initiate the lane swap to get Twitch to that late game and avoid the strong early presence of Corki with that phosphorus bomb. We do have a very deep trinket ward behind the second tier tower on the bottom side from Yancer there to try to check for the lane swap. So we'll see if Corki and Thresh are going to try to sit mid and match that up, or if they're going to let it go. It looks like Corki is rotating towards the top side.
Yeah, they don't have... I don't think they actually got spotted. I don't think Leona was spotted quite yet. So they don't know that the bottom lane's sitting up there, but they're pretty sure that the majority of their team is there because they went through the blue jungle. But now all the wards would expire. The advantage here to EPC, because they do have that blue ward, and they get to see the entire team there starting that blue buff, so they will know that it's Corki in the top lane, and they can probably get Leona Twitch down bottom lane, which is exactly what they're going to do, and get down there and give that 2v1 to Twitch. Oh, a little cheeky move here.
He was looking to get some early pressure onto Jiangun, but I think he figured, Twitch might be around, held off. And I'm really excited. We talked to, I mentioned the Zed pick just a little bit, but this is a huge comfort pick for this mid laner. And again, the Faker of China, flashy plays, loved the Assassins, loved the split push, and loves the dual potential of this champion. So expect to see him go off.
Yeah, I mean, if you want flashy plays, you really can't pick a better mid champion, and his solo ability and your chances to outplay somebody are just exponential on Zed. He is going to have to wait a little bit while, though. I mean, you can see him already kind of getting zoned out off this first wave. You really can't do much until you get a few levels and have a little bit of damage to trade back with Jace, who does so much burst up front against melee.
I do want to talk about kind of the elongated level 1 almost, as the bot lanes were still trying to avoid each other. Twitch and Leona did manage to find their way into that top lane, but it's so important that Kim, or Start as he's being called in this game, got that level 2 right there before Twitch and Leona were able to settle and get the zone on him.
Yeah, he actually had a pretty big advantage because Maokai is actually kind of double jungling with Kha'Zix at the moment, and it looks like a fast push. It's going to be a big damage in the mid lane, and the flashy plays aren't going to happen too soon because now he is at a huge health deficit. No summoners blown though, so a little bit of safety there, but he could catch a shock blast and be ended.
The confidence right there to know that he didn't have to burn the flash, knowing that Jace, of course, took the exhaust to the mid lane, not only because he's against an assassin, but because Jace doesn't have a ton of early game kill pressure. Obviously, he's going to be building his tier first. Like, his level 1 is incredibly potent due to just he has so much more abilities to bring to lane than other champions, but building tier, he stalls out on taking those battle stats into lane, so a lot of patience from Jiangun right there.
Speaking of tier, Ryze already has his tier because he started with the Mana Crystal and got that level 2 early, and I think he took a jungle creep as well. Maybe there was a wolf camp, I think. He had just enough to get a tier. He has a potion as well, and he's going to be back in that top lane, able to... I don't know if he can freeze it yet. I didn't really get to see where the minions were at in the wave, but a pretty big advantage as far as Maokai versus Ryze at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely huge right there. Look at how safe Zed is playing, knowing that Twitch isn't on the map. Again, played incredibly safe for the level 1 because he didn't have eyes, expected kind of a sneaky maneuver. Love Letter does walk through a ward, so he knows what's up.
Yeah, they will get a little bit of extra damage on there, but pretty good read from him, not overextending, especially because he already cranked through all of his potions, all 3 of them, with that longsword start, so not able to really assert himself in lane, and you can see it in the CS. He's already down by 11 CS, and we're going to see a level 3 dragon coming out of EPC right here.
We'll see if Young Glory makes the rotation over. They are pinging it out.
Yeah, he does have vision. Jarvan has his standard down. He could go for it. The standard's actually going to expire here in a second. They're going to TP to the standard. They want to go for a fight here. They don't get the dragon, and it's going to be first blood. Jarvan's going down. Kha'Zix picks up the dragon and the first kill, and they might be able to clean up this fight. Corki's in trouble. He flashes out. Flash from Love Letter. He is in trouble right here as Start gets stunned up, and this is a big start for EPC as they go 2-0 with the dragon at 5.5 minutes.
Huge blunder from Young Glory right there. Did not have the vision to try to get in there. Great CC lock from Energy Pacemaker carries. Of course, getting the early dragon, which technically not worth too much gold at this point since it is a very early, 5-minute dragon right there, but picking up the 2 kills on top of them gives them a hefty gold lead. 2K already.
Yeah, and that can dictate quite a bit. It's so hard to try and make outplays when you start falling so far behind. You can see Thresh trying to make this play happen in the mid lane right now, but now that the wave's going to push up with all that damage from Zed, I don't think he's going to have much opportunity to do it, and they have 2 people sitting mid lane right now, hoping to get this Faker-esque mid lane started, and they're hoping for the over-aggression, but it didn't happen. Jace jumped in and walked back out, so nothing going to happen there, and EPC can really kind of put a little bit of cruise control in here until the next dragon comes out. Just make sure they keep the vision and farm up and try and control the objectives.
They really did a great job setting up that dragon so far in advance. The fact that they had 2 ganks on Jiangun in that mid lane there to make sure that he was kept down, burning through his pots, knowing that they had a health advantage in the mid lane, and then abusing that health advantage for forcing the dragon was beautifully played.
Yeah, I was actually shocked to see the TP come in so late because, like I said, the standard was about to come out, and now Blank's going to face check into the bush into a 3v1 right here. He doesn't have a way out. Rune Prism is down. He does a little tiny hop to his death, and the Overload actually comes over and picks up the kill for that top laner. And a little breath of fresh air right now for Young Glory, who was way behind.
Yeah, and they didn't actually have a lot of wards. They just had that one pink ward they may have caught in the very edge of him as he moseyed up to that top lane. But otherwise, it's pretty much EPC and complete control of vision over this map.
Yeah, and you can see Young Glory, after getting the kill on the jungler, walks straight in, 2 wards being placed down around his red and his wraiths, because they know he's going to be going back to red next. And they will get a pink down, so Jace will get that one bit of vision down, but they're going to have an idea where that pink ward is, and they're going to be able to clear it out the next opportunity they get. And we see an extended 1v1 down in the bottom lane and a 2v2 in the top lane. So we have Corki Maokai duking it out down bottom, and there's not really much kill potential in that lane.
Now, naturally, they don't need to move their numbers advantage to the bot side of the map because the dragon isn't in play yet. So we're going to see how the dragon here, speaking of the dragon, it's Shinlong in the bot lane. Corki there is going to deal with this Maokai.
Yes, so dragons waiting for dragons. So hopefully they can come back and get the killing blow on the next dragon. It was a pretty rough start for them, but a little breath in the top lane, and if they can get Zed going to a point where he's either, he needs to get that 1v1 potentially, right? He needs to get to a point where he finishes his blade after his brutalizer and can really just 1v1 anyone on their team and be that constant threat to have pressure on the map.
You are correct. We do have Jace finally getting his tier as well as picking up that pickaxe right there. So starting to get his stacks going. See if we have these delayed power spikes and how they're going to match up down the road. Again, you have the Maokai. Will look fabulous late game as well as the Jace. But on the other side, Rise got that very early tier that we talked about previously. Will be completing the Roa soon, preferably before 15 minutes.
Yeah, and you can see Zed was actually already down by a bunch of CS, and now he's kind of closed the gap into 7 CS here versus the Jace, so he's not as far behind, and you can see he's kind of been able to assert his presence a little bit now that he's mid-laning some blades. But a gank in the mid lane, they're going to jump in. The ult is down on top of Kha'Zix, but he has nowhere to go. Exhaust for good measure, and that is another kill for Jace. Just as I said, Zed was getting back up. He gets knocked back down.
Great job right there, and again, Young Glory completely dark on the side of the map. The fact that EPC did get such a deep pink ward behind Jarvan means that they have complete control over this red buff jungle, able to dictate when they're going to get the 2v1 as opposed to a surprise 2v2 in that mid lane.
Yeah, and we'll see if Leona, now that she has the sight ward, gets some vision for Dragon. About a minute and a half coming out here, so you don't want to ward it too early so that they can come in and counter ward it with numbers when, Jace goes back. But it looks like they're actually going to put a little bit of a push onto the bottom lane. And then meanwhile, Twitch has been kind of left to his own devices. He really didn't get too much farm in this top lane if you look at the numbers between him and Corki, but he hasn't been ganked a lot. He's been able to soak up the XP, so he might still be that mid-game threat.
Definitely, and his big power spike is going to come from his itemization of that.
Ooh, they're going to jump in on Corki right here. They have the stun, but they didn't get it off for the Valkyrie, so he will be safe. Couldn't get the chain CC off fast enough, so he was able to get out of there and with plenty of health to save him from a tower dive. He now has Thresh coming down. They have vision of him, so that won't be a kill happening. But they know Dragon's coming up, and Young Glory really needs to make the right decision on this Dragon. They will have TPs up all over the map, and we'll see what they can make happen in this Dragon spawn.
They really need to secure vision of their own jungle. That pink ward is still up and around, and just look at Young Glory's jungle, completely lit up by EPC. Every brush.
Yeah, that brush for a pink ward, if you get it early enough, everybody pre-level 4 or 5, they last forever. It's one of my favorite places to ward as a jungler, and now that I ward there all the time, I check there all the time because it's such a common place, especially as you get into higher fights.
I think he cleared it out this time around, so thank goodness that was taken away. But EPC doing such a great job. The fact that they got the early dragon, they immediately translated that early dragon gold into vision gold, and then took over the red jungle just in time for the now Young Glory, even though they didn't get the first dragon, they do know it's up. That's why they made the rotation, putting their 2v2 back on the bottom side. So now it's about how are the teleports going to be used and setting up for this next fight. The second dragon, far more important than the first, just due to how the dragon gold scales. So
yeah, and you always have to worry about the way the TPs go down in the top lane because of the ability to interrupt the TP. So the advantage kind of goes to whoever gets that vision, obviously, but starting the dragon and committing to the dragon first gives you a big advantage because you can look to either stop the other person's TP or get there before it happens. And they're starting this right now. It's already down to half health as Kha'Zix putting down the single target damage, and this might be uncontested. Thresh is the only one in the area, and that'll be Dragon number 2 for EPC.
Wow, just a very untimely back from Yinfu, Young Glory's jungler right there. Wasn't even up for contention. But can we talk about Jace's items right now? At around 12 minutes into the game, sitting on his completed tier, has the 2 long swords, so, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, he's finished the Manamune, and he's didn't go Brutalizer first. A lot of times you'll see them go with a tier, finish a Brutalizer, and that gives you more cooldown reduction to stack your tier. But instead, he went right for the Manamune before he even finished it, and it was probably just the fact that he came back with the right amount of gold to make that happen. No boots doesn't make him very vulnerable. He has the speed boost, so we'll see if he's able to put the amount of mana and damage that he gets from that early on. It's a very early kind of mid-game power spike. If he can get that, a Brutalizer, and a Last Whisper, you know, he turns into a true cannon.
Yeah.
But a glass cannon still. Always got to be very, very scared, especially from an all-in champion like Zed.
I'm just so surprised. It was perfect backs and timings for him to find his power spike right for the dragon.
And didn't even get to see that kill. It was Jarvan just caught out. He walked over that Wraith Ward, and he died before the camera even got there.
Speaking of actual cannon, another little pickup for Jace, and a big part of that, the fact is he's CSing very well, of course, Zed starting really to pick back up on that, but 2 kills, 2 assists, so a lot of extra gold in the bank for him.
Yeah, the matchup right now is pretty one-sided. If you look at Brutalizer Vamp Scepter versus completed Manamune, you know, even if those 2 longswords weren't there, it's still a little bit of a disadvantage.
2K
you know, and
gold over his opponent.
Yeah, I mean that's monstrous in that mid lane. But I mean, a fresh Zed coming off a heal and a buy could still all in and kill Jace with the right opportunity, but you'd have to have the kind of the perfect play. You kind of have to big out like to the skies and the knockback, and then get in with your ultimate and make it happen. And the ward battles are going on in the top lane here, and it looks like they want to go for a dive. Young Glory has the advantage. The box goes down. They're going to jump onto Leona and put some damage down here. Jarvan is there. Exhaust down on the AD carry. He's not be able to do too much, but Maokai is there. The ult is down. He's not taking any damage. The focus is Twitch right now, but they can't do much to him. He flashes out at the last second. No one goes down. It's a double kill for Maokai as he's able to just out-tank them right here. And looks like they might trade the mid tower, but Young Glory not finding a favorable fight once again.
The Maokai ult was really kind of the victor there for EPC. Just huge in stopping all of the damage. We did have a delayed teleport from Ryze, but unfortunately too little too late. And now super
and
sad.
in a bad spot is Leona, but will flash back out. The Zed ult comes down a little bit too late, and a double kill picked up by Kha'Zix, and that looked like a good fight right there for Zed to be able to pick one up, but didn't want to use the ult on Leona in the 2v2 situation, and then Kha'Zix made a 2v3 and picks up a double.
Kind of classic Young Glory right now, the fact that 4 members of resources were top, lost the fight, and it's Jiang Gun trying to find a split push in the mid lane, unfortunately finds the flank. We talked about that acceleration gate, the mobility that it offers to these Chinese teams to get around the map. You cannot underestimate that, and a fantastic flank from Leona.
Yeah, Twitch now has actually finished his blade because of his 4 assists, and the Corki on the other team doesn't even have 3 out of 3 of the items and the Trinity Force yet. So actually has a little bit of an item advantage until the Trinity Force is completed, and is down by 40 CS, excuse me. So I'm not sure what Young Glory need to do. I mean, you can't just take your foot off the gas, but you really need to find the right fight from here on out, because the next team fight could be the end of the game.
Young Glory had a bit of a reputation on kind of giving up around the middle of LPL. There was a point there where they just actually stopped scrimming entirely because they figured, what's the point? We're going to get relegated anyway. And that was actually the week where they came back and they beat EDG, the #1 team. But hold on a second. No, he's just going to Valkyrie. He's cool. He's fine. He's fine.
Yeah, he was trying to be a sneaky little rat, but
with that that Bork completion, like you said, it increases the power spike of Twitch because he can effectively go around and assassinate pretty much anyone on the map.
Yeah, he actually opened up with the Bork to land the cask after it, because the cask is the part where it's a little bit difficult to land, especially if the Corki, you know, with pro reaction times, you can see the cask in the air and you can actually get out of it before it even lands. So the Bork guarantees that. And EPC V in the bottom lane isn't really even caring about this Corki right now. As he pushes in, he has help from Twitch coming. Corki smells it. And once again, Valkyrie's before he gets hit by the Twisted Advance. So, you know, the sixth sense that Twitch is there has been excellent on Corki right now.
I think V is also telegraphing this a little bit, not giving Love Letter too much time to really get in position and stand behind his target so he can make or compensate for the Valkyrie distance.
Yeah, so Young Glory will get the top tower. It's going to be their first tower of the game. A little bit of gold to kind of close the gap just a little bit, but they're still down by about 6k even right now. 7 kills. The only one to kill right now is that Rise in the top lane, and that was pretty much from just a scene Kha'Zix coming into the counter jungle and just face checking into 2 players. So not like it was a great decision from Young Glory, which is kind of what they're lacking right now. 2 bad dragon decisions, one that was just gone for free, another one that was a really poor TP. Kobe would have words for that. But then you end up with that top lane dive where they dove in, they used the box, and then Maokai showed up and just put a stop to everything.
I'm very curious about Jace's build right here going in. It doesn't look like he's going to go second item. Of course, he had the Brutalizer, but typically Jace's go second item Last Whisper. It looks like he's going straight for the BT.
Yeah, and I think that might be because
Just
of the
siege
fact of how
potential.
far ahead he is. I mean, when you're rocking 204, 158 CS, at sub 20 minutes, you have quite a big lead right now. And it's not like they've been trading kills. They've just been picking them up. And this is going to be the 3rd dragon of the game. There is a contest coming down here. See if they can get a hook to start the fight. They don't have vision of the dragon. It will go down, and now they just need to retreat. They do not want to get in a fight here. J4 has ulted Maokai. He's going to get back out. They're going to sacrifice the Thresh, who drops the box anyways, to make sure there's no follow-up. And that should be mid-tower as well. They'll probably just tank it up. Yes, that is.
Young Glory just completely letting Energy Pacemaker dictate the pace of this game and run them over. I mean, they're just passively losing at this point. They're not being proactive with any of their visions. They're not utilizing their composition and trying to create comps, and they're not even 5v5ing and utilizing the synergy between Jarvan Ultimate and Corki Poke.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to the Zed split push right now. I think it's probably the best option they have to them, but having Zed and Rise both split push and not utilize Rise backing and then maybe using the TP later to push if a wave actually gets that close to save that tier 2 tower might have been a mistake. I don't think you can let 2 towers just go absolutely uncontested.
And again, this is very much in the MO of Young Glory. It's constantly their mid lane or kind of in a side lane while the rest of the team kind of just loses the team fight. But you are correct. Rise needs to get his AoE involved with that Cataclysm.
Yeah, I think unfortunately right now, I don't think Zed could actually take on the Maokai 1v1, and he'd have to be always worried about that Twitch as soon as he comes off the map. I mean, but Young Glory doing a good job. They have a 4-man push. They just swept from mid. They show up in the bottom lane. They have a full wave there. They're going to actually be able to take this tier 2 turret for free, and they might be able to go back to the mid lane because the EPC actually sent 4 people down bottom. They have Jace going around now. Rise been putting the pressure on, and they're really just kind of playing with whatever cards they have as Rise gets caught out right here. Kha'Zix putting in big damage, but he will get out of there. The Lantern being a savior, and they're pretty much going to get a tower for free right there.
Beautiful Lantern from Yancer right there to try to change a risky situation. Rise does walk out with his life. Kind of curious that EPC didn't make the chase right there, but they are going to go ahead and back off. I think they're looking for big power spikes and trying to stagger their backs to prepare to defend this tower.
They had a pretty good advantage if they wanted to chase that. The box was down. They did have to kind of compete with a Cataclysm. So, chasing down through the jungle is pretty tough to get past that. But my goodness, the Shock Blasts are putting big damage right now into Corki. He's already down to half health. I don't think sieging is an option, and they have Zed in that bottom lane to create the pressure. But once again, you have Maokai, who's like a wall of trees just in that bot lane.
Young Glory needs to make sure that they ward up their flanks.
Oh, they actually go in on this one. The box is down. Thresh picking up a kill onto Jace. They look like they put the Cataclysm down and broke it right away. Zed's going to be able to pick up a kill on Love Letter. That's a 2-0 exchange under the tower. And it looked disadvantaged at first. A Flash Rune Prism, and Kim not able to pick up that kill. A re-engagement from Maokai, who's going to be able to pick up one. There's another kill going down. Corki gets kill on Leona right there. Zed takes the Lantern out. And it's still going to be a 3-for-2 exchange in favor of Young Glory.
The big thing was how quickly the members of either team got involved in that fight. So initially it was a 5v4 in Young Glory's favor just because Zed was able to make the rotation faster than Maokai. And that's kind of where EPC came out on the back half of that. Maokai is so important to their team fight that he needs to be there initially to start off that engagement.
Yeah, he is really the front line the only real front line they have. I mean, Leona is tanky as long as her shield's up, but you can see she just got a chain vest. She has no armor, no additional MR, went with Moby boots. So if she's caught out in front and her Daybreak's not up, she just will drop. She might have a shield, but she's kind of paper at the moment, whereas Maokai gets a flat damage reduction. He has a Spear of Visage, has a Chain Vest, has Ninja Tabby, and is really far ahead and needs to be... They really need to just find a fight with Maokai instead of... They're kind of playing to Young Glory's push right now.
Yeah, Young Glory has taken complete control of all of the pressure points on this map, and Energy Pacemaker, exactly like what Twitch was doing here, have to start fighting against these pressure points and focus that top outer tower down. That's really causing a big problem for them because they're never going to get control of that wave up there.
Yeah, so we see that kind of mid-game stagnation right here, and I think that's mainly because EPC just lost towers and kills for absolutely nothing. They got pushed in, pretty much split pushed in, or a 1-3-1 at a little bit of that there. And, you know, the Rise teleport was used. It created the pressure in the mid lane, a flash rune prism. You know, it's one of those things where, like, you don't expect it to happen because it's such a big use of flash for such a short range ability. But, you know, if they're landed, you can create a fight right off of it.
Also has the bonus movement speed of the ultimate proc right there, but you are correct. It looks like they are maybe looking for a flank here now, just controlling vision over Baron.
Yeah, 2 pink wards should take care of that. I think if they double pink it, they'll have twice as much vision as they need. And Twitch going to put a little damage in there from stealth. Nothing to be worried about. Jarvan has taken the steps towards armor, and they actually went double Sightstone, which has definitely given them quite an advantage in this mid game. And they've used the vision to their advantage very, very well. They have not wasted an opportunity where they could have pushed a tower and second guess their pushing power. So, you know, if they could find a good fight on top of that, then I think they could come back in this game.
That's the patented EDG Clear Love Sightstone Jarvan. Debuted at Worlds. There's not a hint of sarcasm.
debuted at Worlds and patented at the same day. But, oh, wow, lots of damage taken by Corki right there. You know, Urf doesn't have a lot of armor, it doesn't look like. He seems like he's just got holes in him from Jace, and now they're jumping onto Zed, and Maokai's pretty sticky right now. As you can see, he uses the blade, and he's going to Shadow out of there. He realizes that they're coming down to get him, and a perfect Leona ultimate. Hop in, Blanket helps out with the kill. Maokai's are picking that one. They hop back out. They'll get the dragon, and no Rise TP means that there's no contestation.
Young Glory yet to secure a dragon right here. It's all about this split push. The split push Rise and Zed is real here for them, and unfortunately they aren't able to trade any sort of a global objective for this because I doubt Rise has the minion wave behind him, so Young Glory finds 0 answers.
Yeah, it was kind of a mistake for Zed to actually go and just kind of face check Maokai and then trade a few autos with him. As soon as that happened, he realized that he was in a bad spot, and it was already too late to get out of there.
To find the slow when Zed tried to shadow away. Very nicely played.
Oh, those saplings are so annoying.
From here, Young Glory does need to resecure vision over the Baron. They should be checking the pit right now for that bonus. I believe, what, it's 30 gold, 60 gold right there for free?
Yeah, they're going to give it to Thresh. The Thresh is like, let me pick up one of these. Oh, they shared. They shared. They're team. They're team.
Team bonding.
Exactly. And he looks like Thresh is actually going for the Frozen Heart right away. Not heavy auto-attacking team, I mean, other than Twitch, but they do have auto-attackers that the Frozen Heart will help with, and everybody loves cooldown reduction, and they're kind of posturing on the Baron, clearing the wards once again, and I think they're trying to get a fight where they can kind of pull them in, poke them out, and then it looks like they're going to start Baron right here. They got Thresh down to half health. This might be really risky.
So the answer, obviously, is that Young Glory has to try to fight with the Rise AoE on the Cataclysm to contest this Baron long enough.
Oh, and there's the fight. A good Leona ultimate. 2 stuns right there. They jump right in, and Jarvan is going to be taken down first. They hop and skip. The Goomba Stomps come out from Kha'Zix, picking up another kill, and it looks like they'll switch back to the Baron, and they might have to trade this for an inhibitor, though. There's a little bit of poke coming out from Corki. Not going to be enough, and I see where Zed is at. He gets the tower down. He probably won't get the inhibitor, though. It'll be very close.
He has to get the inhibitor here. That's the only way that this trade is going to be anywhere near worth for Young Glory. But nope, he is going to leave. His team was not able to stall out enough.
Yeah, and you could see Corki was like itching to kind of get some rockets in there and hopefully stop some of the backs. but would have been very, very risky. And they knew they were going to lose top tower anyways, and that would have been probably multiple towers if they were able to take Corki with that Baron buff.
Now, obviously, this is huge, and let me just kind of gloss over why. So, with Energy Pacemaker taking up the Baron, obviously this gives them a huge stat bonus. They're able to push. They pretty much get to dictate the game already more than they already were. Young Glory had to stall it out here. Even best case scenario, they get the Baron as well as the inhib, but more importantly, they just needed to stall EPC here long enough so that Jiangan could have gotten the inhibitor, because if he had gotten the bottom side inhibitor, this Baron would have translated into nothing. And what I mean by nothing is they would have never been able to leave these pressure points that Young Glory is already really successfully creating on the map, and they would have wasted the duration of the Baron just clearing minion waves as opposed to pushing down towers and trying to break this Young Glory inhibitor line.
Yeah, this early in the game, it might even been worth a sacrifice of Zed to get that inhibitor down, just to negate the Baron pressure. Because Baron with this team and the amount of poke that Jace is providing right now,
siege potential, yeah.
It's just, there's so much siege there. And look, they're jumping right in on Jarvan. They're not afraid to grab a fight. Maokai's not even there, but he does have TP up. A Solar Flare will be a Solar Whiff. Corki has his shades on, and he's going to be able to avoid that right off the bat. But, a big hook on a Twitch right there. And they're actually going to go in onto Thresh on this one and get the kill. Zed is there. He wants to get in. He gets his ultimate off, but he's not put out the damage yet. A big fight erupting as Corki picks up one. Kha'Zix picks up one, getting a little too far ahead. The jump in from Maokai, who's so tanky, now diving the AD carry. The top laner not going to be able to slow this Maokai down. They jump in on him. Maokai picks up a double for his efforts. Well-deserved from V right there, and they're going to push down this mid tower.
This Maokai is just massive, and no one is able to deal through him. He has his Spirit Visage completed, and again, the camp early on Zed, the fact that he was ganked twice in the first 5 minutes and wasn't able to compete for the farm, Maokai didn't really even need to focus armor. He does have the Frozen Heart available to him, but Zed can't assassinate anyone on the opposing team.
Yeah, Maokai is like an undying redwood right now. He's already hit like age 2000. He hasn't dropped a death in this game, and he's also got the most kills. He's able to pick up all the kills in this fight right on the front line, and just hasn't been touched. You watched him dive right there, which might not happen in 4.2 when we have laser beams, but he was able to just kind of walk in and just continue the fight as Ryze had nowhere to go.
The big thing, too, is where EPC has their gold spread. As you can see from all of those assists, the entire team has been together in everything that they've done, whereas Young Glory, again, running more of kind of this 1-3-1 split push pressure. They aren't involved together with teams. They don't have a lot of assists. There's not a lot of gold spread around evenly, so it's just starting to overwhelm them as EPC just jams this game down their throats.
Yeah, and the toughest part about their 1-3-1 is that when Zed split pushes or Ryze split pushes, they only have Corki with rockets and phosphorus bombs to try and wave clear. Now that there are super minions, it should pretty much be free reign for them to be able to pick out these next two outer turrets as long as they move quickly and continue the pressure.
Absolutely. And they are moseying down to that bottom side lane. They will take the bottom tier outer, obviously being able to, bottom lane inner, obviously being able to pressure this side of the map. Since the Baron is not available, this would be the next most important inhibitor for them to acquire, because should they get this inhibitor, by the time Baron respawns, they can play with that pressure point and pretty much walk away with a second free Baron should they need it.
Yeah, they're kind of sitting here with that choice, like, well, do we back off for the dragon? Because we kind of kept them all in the bottom lane now. I mean, it would be probably an uncontested dragon. Or do we stay grouped and use our pushing power once Jace gets here to take down this turret? Because I think with a few shock blasts, they wouldn't be able to do much. And they're going to engage right away. Maokai goes in first. There's a jump in from Kha'Zix. The knock-up from J4 trying to stop them with a Cataclysm back out. Not happening. They will be able to get the kill onto Kha'Zix, who jumped really deep. But Maokai still tanking it up, untouched. Leona going to follow up right here. And that is going to be a massacre. A 4-for-1 exchange. And Jace came in very, very late to that fight, as it was a 4v5.
This Maokai is just huge. This game is pretty much done for Young Glory, so now the question becomes, how are they going to compensate and switch gears for Game 2? Again, we are in the loser's bracket, so with EPC taking this game pretty shortly here, it is going to be a one-game advantage to them in a best-of-3.
Yeah, I mean, they had kind of the Twitch pickup towards the end was kind of securing that late game for EPC if things did go wrong early, but they had the Ryze to combat that. And I think what really happened was they used the counter pick in the mid lane, and they didn't have the picks that they needed with Zed. They didn't have Zed, cutting off their jungle. They didn't have Zed and Jarvan in a position that when they went for Dragon, where J4 and Zed could just kill somebody and create that 4v5 Dragon to where they could pick up an easy pile of gold.
And again, a lot of that was due to a great cohesive plan, not just for the early game, mid game, and late game, but just the entire game from EPC. The fact that they put the camp on early, they got the 2v1 lane swap for Twitch, they were able to scale their hyper carries effectively into late game, secured every single dragon, and just snowballed to victory. Very clean game from EPC.
Yeah, EPC, I was worried about how their strategy was going, but it looks like the biggest part of their strategy they committed to was that 2v1. And it did pan out for them, especially when they ended up getting a 1v1 with Maokai versus Corki anyways. Whereas, you know, if Maokai can scale up like that to where he's just unkillable and unstoppable, you can't even get past him, you know, with his Arcane Smash. So he just became, you know, whenever he was there for a team fight, I think the only time they lost was when he came in too late. And they were still able to pick up a couple kills off of Maokai's planks, but it just wasn't able to be dealt with from Young Glory.
Absolutely. So with that, we will be continuing this one series. Till then, we're going to go ahead and mute our mics. We'll come back with the stream. So thanks, guys. You're watching LPL EN.
刚刚有些失态，不过别着急，演出远还没结束呢。
幸运女神在微笑，孤独的心爱将水口带入梦。